All right, let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Welcome to our product roadmap. What's new? What's coming? All right, you can move forward with the next slide. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Again, please feel free to drop your name and where you're coming from in the chat. My name is Christine. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Mentor Collective, and I'm your MCer for today, intended. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded, and yes, we will send it to you in a follow-up email following this session. On the screen, we have a few tips to ensure a smooth virtual experience. We do suggest adjusting your video layout to speaker view so that it allows you to see the slide deck and also the speaker for today. We'd also love to hear from you, so please continue to drop your name in the chat and where and the organization that you're coming from. Throughout this session, you could also put your any questions that you may have, or you can also utilize the Q&A feature here in Zoom. But above all, we'd love to see your reactions. It's great to have some fun with the React function in Zoom. With that being said, let's get started. Today, our speaker will be Annemiek Rice, our Senior Vice President of Product Transformation here at Mentor Collective. All right, I'm going to kick it off to her.
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you to our partners and potential future partners for joining us in our webinar today. I am very excited to show you what our product and engineering team has been working on and is getting ready to deliver to everyone in the coming months. But before I jump into that, I just want to reflect a little bit on some year-end accomplishments and what's ahead for 2026. In 2025, our wonderful Mentor Collective partner organizations formed 98,932 human connections between and among learners, their support professionals, workers, alumni, etc. And the Mentor Collective platform and team have saved this wonderful group of educators and workforce professionals over $10.8 million in time and money this year. We are so deeply committed to deepening this impact. I am a huge data geek, so of course I looked back at how this has grown over the past few years, and this is almost 35% more human connections than just 2 years ago, and over 44% more time and money saved than in that same time. So we are so honored to be chosen by our wonderful partners year after year, so deeply committed to helping you get more connection and more impact from us with every single year. And today I'm going to talk a lot about how we're committed to doing that with some of our product development looking ahead. Quick start to talk about what's kind of happening in the landscape that is influencing or driving the choices that we're making in our roadmap and our overall approach for what we are calling our cycle of engagement, which is the focus of today's conversation. I am going to give you a sneak peek at the upcoming new features, our next two releases, and a little preview of where we're headed after that. So everything we're talking about today will be available to everyone in great documentation and release notes as these dates approach, so you can truly sit back, relax, and enjoy and start to imagine how mentorship will be transformed at your organization as these new features roll out. So I want to talk a little bit about, like, as I said, what influenced or drove these choices. What we know from very smart and thoughtful folks in the field and wonderful studies that have been done is that institutions and organizations offer so many resources to their learners, to their students, to their workers, but offering them is not enough. Really, utilization of those is key to achieving the impact, whether that is mentorship itself, tutoring services, advising, whatever it might be. And true value is not found in just having that list. That's a good starting point, but in having our learners effectively engage with that support at the right time and in the right place. For instance, we know from some recent studies that 72% of students report not using any services at certain institutions. And yet we know that mentorship is really a key to meeting that need. It is a puzzle piece in the overall ecosystem of service and support that we provide to learners. So Learners are hungry for support. They just want it on their terms. 82% of learners say they want proactive and personalized support, not a directory of options. 9 times more likely to share information and get support from their peers than with official help, offers like staff members. Mentorship really is a key solution here. It takes the trust that learners already place in their community and makes access to the support you're offering truly scalable. And that is where we at Mentor Collective are invested in that journey, getting learners in the door, getting them connected and matched. But as we said, access to the resource, that connection is not enough. We need to drive utilization. So the match is a starting line, not a finish line. Participation is not the same as authentic connection and that collaborative relationship that drives outcomes like self-efficacy, professional network, social connection. So as our philosophy suggests, we aren't just about matching people, we are about moving them forward. Engagement is that mechanism of growth. It's defined by regular purposeful conversations between mentee and mentor, where there's rapport and psychological safety, and the mentor is able to provide validated guidance. It is what turns a conversation into that strategic success lever that results in better access to resources, better achievement of goals. So when a participant is truly engaged in mentorship, they signal real world needs. They discuss the actual obstacles in their environment. They build social capital. They get access to networks and durable skills like judgment and leadership that help them with long-term success. And they activate the resources that the mentorship can act as a catalyst for individuals to make the most of what your organization offers. So this is what leads to our approach. We know the value of engagement and we know there are blockers. So how do we resolve this? This is what brings us to a fully supported engagement cycle. We really zoomed out and looked at what are the steps the participants have to take in order to truly engage with their counterpart, to go from a human connection offered to a human connection formed. So we look at this in a 6-stage journey: prepare, schedule, connect, reflect, flag, and review. This does not stop when the first meeting is over. It's a holistic, reflective, and recurring approach for participants to get the most out of their mentorship. So we are using technology to identify and address the common barriers, to streamline the user's experience, and to really keep engineering that deeper engagement that you are striving for. So let's get into the details here. The first is something that's already live. So just a refresher for those who are maybe new or need it, is the first step there was prepare. That first connection, that first conversation requires something in common and some ability to approach that conversation effectively. So when we were learning from our participants, we found out that almost 3/4 of mentees expressed some hesitation in reaching out to their mentors. And they told us those reasons. They told us they felt they might be a burden. They weren't sure about what to say, or lack of direction. The biggest one was not sure what to say. Social anxiety. Even mentors hesitate. Am I qualified to do this? I'm struggling with time. I'm not sure exactly what to say. So we look closer at what would overcome that obstacle preparation and validated that conversation prompts, what we call conversation sparks, would help mentees and mentors get over the hurdle to that first conversation. If you had clear ideas for what to talk about, specific questions or topics, would that help? And 64% of the users said this would increase engagement. So we released our Conversation Sparks feature. This provides mentors and mentees with exactly what they need, the personalized and timely prompts right within their dashboard. These are not generic icebreakers. These are conversation starters, truly unique to that pair based on their matching survey responses. And this is generative AI. And this also, we found that the nudging around this, where we reach out to participants and say, hey, do you know that you can access this information? Here's a suggested topic for a conversation, is driving overall adoption of the Mentor Collective application and in the time they spend looking at and activating resources within the product. We have a lot more to do in that engagement cycle, so let's keep going around the wheel here. The next phase is getting over the hurdle to that connection. So to get to connection, the meeting, we really looked at what does that meeting look like? So in the Mentor Collective dataset, we can see of the conversations being logged by participants to date, what is the format that they record them in? So we really looked hard at what they want, and we saw a fascinating picture of two different things. There's the digital reality. The majority of recorded conversations, almost 70%, are taking place over text or email. What I want to say here is recorded conversation. These are obviously conversations that someone takes the time to log or note. However, and that's matched. 53% of users want email. They want written communication as an option. They want the flexibility and the digital access that comes from that. However, there's also this craving for human connection. Um, in-person connection is desired by 25%, video calls by 16%. And mentees actually prefer in-person meetings significantly more than mentors do. 34% of mentees want in-person connection, 23% of mentors. Since we've already made text so accessible with our SMS relay and email so accessible through our participant dashboard page, we are focusing next on how to make that in-person or live call connection happen. And that is why I'm excited to announce our release of Smart Scheduling. This probably comes no surprise to all of us. The logistics of scheduling that meeting can be frustrating and they can kill the momentum of the relationship. So, a couple rounds of, does this time work for you? Does this time work for you? And all of a sudden, it's been 8 weeks and that still hasn't happened. And that's why we built Smart Scheduling. This will integrate with participants' calendars, Google and Outlook, and let them schedule a meeting immediately inside the platform. But we also go one step further. Smart scheduling will cross-reference both calendars. It will account for time zones. It will display mutual availability to each user in their own local time. No back and forth, no friction, just quick smart scheduling that gets us from connection offered to meeting happened much faster. I'm excited to share that we will be launching this in the next few weeks. So this is coming in February 2026. A little bit more detail for those of you who are probably very excited to see this in action. Our existing participant flow, because most of folks will be in an existing program and an existing connection when this is released, folks will be sent reminders in the app and through nudging to say, connect your calendar. They'll see that I'm connected and my counterpart is not. They'll see when the counterpart's connection is made as well. And let me actually show you a recorded demo of this feature as well. So most participants will connect their calendars during registration, but if they haven't, they'll see a call to action on the mentorship page to connect calendar now. Guided through creating that connection, you can choose from the Google or Outlook options where they can schedule their first meeting or their next meeting and provide the necessary authorizations. Once they get through the step of connecting their calendar, they can schedule their first meeting and be shown times that both mentor and mentee have available. There'll be a few dates to choose from, and you can show more dates as well. And then you can see all of the times. These again are adjusted for time zones, so there's no time zone mishaps. They can then confirm the information. They can rename the meeting title. And then once that meeting is confirmed in schedules, they'll be able to see it on their calendar itself and as a reminder on the dashboard. And then once that meeting is complete, we're able to move on to the next phase of the process. As I mentioned, moving forward for new participants, someone is being invited for the first time, this calendar connection will actually be part of their onboarding and registration process. So along with taking a matching survey, along with completing any training that is offered or required, they'll connect a calendar, complete a survey, do training, and then be right there with their conversation sparks and their connected calendars ready to go. Yes, just for a quick note, the full recording of this is available and you will get access to these screenshots, these little videos so that you can see everything as part of our typical release notes process. So you're getting a preview and you'll also get access to all of this in your inboxes. As I mentioned, that's not as far as we're going. So we've gotten to scheduling and now we're on to the actual connection. So not only do we want to encourage participants to have conversations, but we also want to make sure that we're incorporating what we know drives best outcomes of that conversation. So research shows that tracking progress and doing self-reflection are really key to mentoring relationships. One of the things we do in the matching survey is we ask them to identify a goal and we present that goal to their counterpart. But how are we reflecting on that goal? What are the actions to be taken against it? And this is what brings us to our next release, conversation logging 2.0. Conversation logging is already part of the Mentor Collective application, but we're really, really amping it up here to an engaging, reflective experience. I think every one of our current partners looks at their dashboards with a smile on their face and says, look at all these connections, but wishes that there was even more engagement happening between pairs and really like seeing those positive signs of ongoing relationships. So our new and improved system is really designed to do exactly that. We are building this conversations data layer, moving beyond just knowing match was made, conversation was had, into having rich history of that connection. This will introduce a shared history where the mentees and the mentors can see their progress, can see their notes, can see their shared goals all in one place. This gives us the ability to really surface the reality of the mentorship dynamic to the very people who need to benefit from it, the mentor and the mentee themselves. So participants will be able to log rich qualitative notes, track sentiment, milestone their progress, and their collective engagement history to stay more engaged and to see those outcomes improve. Of course, I mentioned we always are listening to and paying attention to the research, but also the participants and what they say they need and want in designing these things. So, something to know about this particular feature is actually in alpha. There are a set of programs where our participants are actively using these tools today, where we test out different screens and different options to see which the participants like the most, which drive the best engagement. All of this is happening as our team is working behind the scenes before we release this to the full membership. And these are some of the questions that we ask the participants as a whole or in the alpha group. So here's an example. When we think about wanting this conversation reflection to happen, we asked, how are you typically remembering what you discussed? 40% of them almost relying on their memory. I am aging myself and saying, I'm not sure how good I would be at that. But we see this critical gap in behavior. We know that reflection and action is important. We don't see the notation and the reflection happening. We do see people saying, I do take notes. I have a note-taking behavior, but maybe it's in my own environment. It's not shared with someone else. It's on a piece of paper. Is that easy for us to learn from? Okay, continuing with what else we ask our users to help with the design here. We asked about what are your main goals for capturing takeaways? And you can see some very helpful motivators here. Number one, to see my personal growth and feel motivated by my progress. This is such a great activity to say, I met with my mentor. I actualized my goals. I have a plan. I am proceeding towards goal achievement. Many said, I want to hold myself accountable, or I want to feel more prepared for the next session that I have, not feeling like, what did I talk about? Where was I going? And also to share my learnings with others. Now, we also reflect that sometimes people want a personal space for notation, and sometimes they want a shared space. You'll see that present in how we design this as well in a moment. Of course, there's always obstacles. So, what are the obstacles? What are the biggest struggles? This was a very clear answer. For people who have challenges with note-taking behaviors, the main problem here is I don't know what to capture. Um, and so we really focused a lot on providing them with actual guidance about how to reflect. And again, because we did this in like an alpha experimental environment with actual mentors and mentees and real mentorship programs, we tested different prompts to see which resulted in the types of reflections that the mentees and mentors were looking for. And we iterated on that to get to this final product that we'll be releasing to our full membership. Now, I'm mostly focusing on how we're reflecting on conversations, but I do want to share that in the interface itself, you'll also see some other things that are there to streamline and drive engagement. One of them is badging. So there's this new element. If I can see I'm a mentor looking at my mentee in the dashboard, I can see, oh, we've only had one conversation so far. We're trying to drive them to keep going, to keep that momentum. Maybe you've had 8 conversations and you want to give them that thumbs up. So there's some gamification elements here. We've also separated conversation logging from flag reporting. Those of you who see your flags in the system often know sometimes a flag is about a lack of engagement, sometimes about something that comes up in between conversations. So we've really streamlined this to say at any time a mentor can refer, raise a hand, etc., to help a mentee. And then again, we also keep that disengagement flow, which is a really important part of the process. If there is disengagement, there's a whole flow that happens to help raise that as well. So let's get into a little demo of how this works. So here I am, I've clicked that log a conversation button. And the first thing that I can do is log the date of the conversation, actually be able to backdate this, very popular feature request, if they didn't log their conversations right away. Then the user sees a preset prompt and they'll be encouraged to summarize their conversation. We give them the prompts of what did we discuss today? How does this relate to my goals? Super important prompt. And our next steps. And I say our because this can be shared between mentor and mentee. So they have a guided but flexible process. They can then share it with their mentee or mentor or not, and also see these sentiment trackers that are shared. So this updated history of conversation is then shared between the mentor and the mentee, or visible just to each other if they did not share it on the same screens we were talking about. My mentorship journey is a new section here where they can actually see the details of what they wrote and or the details of what their counterpart wrote if they're doing a shared notation option. We put that in the hands of the individual themselves. Perhaps they might actually make two versions of a note, one to recap their call that they want someone else to see, one to reflect on their preparation for the meeting. Um, but that is something that they are in control of the privacy of their own information. I've told you about how much we rely on our participants and our customers and partners to make the best decisions here. And so I want to point out that in the initial experiments with this functionality, we have actually driven conversation records from a single word to 633 characters on average, which is so much more meaningful of an activity for the participant themselves. And that's really who we're focused on here is the mentors and mentees and what they need, knowing that if they get what they need, organizations will benefit. And I also want to share some anonymized quotes that keep me motivated on a weekly basis. These are some of the ways that folks responded to the prompt of, what was the impact of this session. Uh, Finally reaching out and taking the first step, choosing not to be scared. So we're relieving that social anxiety, providing people with access to I love this, which is like I'm seeing my older self, like setting clear goals, taking small steps through improvement. These are the things that people are actually writing about their mentorship sessions today. So that is how we finish our fully supported engagement cycle. Certainly, we will continue to iterate on this. One of the key ways we'll do that is continuing to update nudging and reminders to bring people back in to their cycle to take their next step as well in this holistic and reflective process. And the best part of all of this, of course, is two things. This is available at no additional cost as an integrated part of the platform for all of our customers. Um, these features are also built on a very specific promise, which is high immediate value features with zero effort from you. Um, this does not require significant time investment from you as the point of contacts to configure or deploy. Um, these releases require zero technical integration, zero troubleshooting. The product itself will drive the engagement. We have heard from so many of you how challenging this time is for you, how strapped you feel, how you don't have enough time. And we really have taken that to heart in a lot of the choices that we make in how we invest in the product that you've chosen to be something that you can just watch the effects of these tools on your dashboard. You can see the impact on the conversations and engagement of your mentors and mentees and know that they're taken care of. All right, before we wrap up, I do want to give one more sneak peek about the future here, a look ahead here. We are also working on a brand new program designer tool. This is really for our customer, our partners, the administrators who are responsible for the oversight of mentorship programs. Historically, going from wanting to launch a mentorship program to getting it out the door can take quite a long time. It's worth the investment. You put a lot of time and energy into it. We give you support every step of the way, but it can mean juggling workbooks, emails, multiple meetings to make these choices. We know that you would rather spend that time on the impact to learners, on your success strategies, and we would rather have you do that too. So to solve this problem, we are launching a program designer, an on-demand conversational AI agent to guide you through the process of program design and setup. Think of this as like an on-demand version of like the best Mentor Collective consultant, has all of the history, trained on a decade of best practices and outcomes, from institutions and organizations like yours. You tell the designer your goals, whether that's retention for first-gen students or career readiness for those entering the workforce, and there will be recommendations of the configurations and choices that lead to those best outcomes. This does not replace your customer success manager at all. The goal here is to empower you and your CSM to spend time on high complexity choices, the unique nuances of your organization. And there will always be an approval process for you and your CSM to make final designs. And this means that as you meet with us, you're going to move from administrative checks to strategic deep dives, looking at your data, talking about your strategies and your objectives as well. All right, I am going to wrap up by passing over to my friend Christine here for a poll and then checking back in on our chat and Q&A to see if there's anything else I can answer for the team here.
All right, that poll has been launched. If you could take a minute to just answer that question for us, that would be wonderful.
Great. All right, I see a question in the chat. One of them I've already answered. Yes, you will be able to have access to the screenshots and the video demos to see how scheduling, calendaring works. That is the most immediate next feature release, so you should expect that soon. Conversation logging, you'll get those when we get closer to the actual release date of that feature so that everything is exactly where the buttons will be on the screen. And that is a date to be determined in the spring. Here's another question. What happens when conversations are not logged on the dashboard since means of engagement are flexible? I mean, I think this is a great question, Ernest. I think we think of conversation logging as an indicator of conversations, not an absolutely perfect number. And we know that there are conversations taking place that are not logged. So a big part of these features are to make that more easy and more rewarding for the participant. Right now, when they log conversations, there's absolutely no return to them. There's no benefit to the mentor or mentee in present state in logging a conversation. Whereas in the future, with these new releases, they will actually do it for their own benefit. And the goal there is to see conversation logging increase. There are a series of nudges that already go out to remind people to do that, which are pretty effective, and those will continue. Here's another question. Our program works with alumni and professional mentors, many of whom work at organizations with really strict internet safety requirements. Will their Outlook calendars still be able to connect? Yes, they will. This is, as you could see from the demo, using single sign-on through Google and Outlook, which is basically using the inherent security protocols of those environments. Does not require any download on a computer. It doesn't require them to, share data with Mentor Collective beyond the calendar to calendar integration. So that is one of the reasons why we have Outlook as an option, actually, in that list. Google and Outlook are the current options because we know how many of you have workplace mentors that are in that environment. Christine, are there any other Q&As that I can answer before we wrap up?
We have one more here. I'm going to share it with you.
Is there a way to upload documents so they can all be in one place? Great question. No, there is not a document upload. I will say that we have noticed in conversation reporting that there are quite a few people who are actually like turning on a call recorder on their workspace or similar and copy pasting in their transcripts, which I think many of you who use these different tools or copy pasting in the summaries of their transcripts. And so that rich text editor will take any format or any length of rich text, but it will not accept documents. So right now that would mean they can put a link to something in there for their reference. They can, and they can copy paste in something.
And we are all set. That is it with the questions.
All right, thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to wrap. Actually, Christine, why don't you wrap us with our upcoming events and we'll let everyone get back to their days. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, excellent. If you can move forward, Anamik, to our next slide. On the side here, we will be on the road. We'd love to see you at Dream, NASPA Annual, and Innovation. If you are attending those events, please come reach out to us. We are happy to say hello, come pick up some swag, and just have a nice conversation with us. All right. And with that being said, thank you so much for coming to today's session. Again, you'll be receiving a follow-up email in the next day or so. And if you need anything from us, let us know. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye bye.